Good morning, Mr. Phelps. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to create an equitable grading policy during the worst time in the history of American education. But before we get to that point, folks, greetings and akomo mai, and welcome to this week's episode of Enterprising Educators. And I'm absolutely thrilled to have you aboard, folks. I'm absolutely thrilled as we go on this first video across all the different kinds of frontiers in American education. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves with today's topic, if you like what you see and would like to see more, and also become part of the Enterprising Educators crew, please like and share and subscribe. And if there's a topic you'd like to have me address in this channel, please let me know in the comments below. I'm really looking forward to having this dialogue with you folks across all the different frontiers of cyberspace. So, with that said, let's talk about equitable grading. There are 5 prime directives that we can talk about in this video. And to let you know a little bit about myself, folks, I've been doing this off and on for about 10 years in various capacities, and I'm approaching this topic as a 3rd generation educator. And that carries a significant amount of weight because conventional wisdom says when a student does not hand in an assignment, they don't get any points. 0 points at all. Goes in the grade book as a 0. Now, up until the pandemic, folks, that's how I gave grades. Then, when the pandemic happened, that policy, along with every other policy that I had and schools had and school districts had, got uprooted. So I had to create a new mechanism to meet students where they are, while also giving them points where appropriate, and also holding students accountable. So with that in mind, there are 5 prime directives for equitable grading according to the model I've developed. And the first one, pretty plain and simple. Directive 1. Attendance and check-ins are absolutely required for this to work. I call this model, for better or worse, universal academic income. Forgive me, I'm from Portland, Oregon. It really tests well with parents where I'm from. So with that in mind, that's what I call it. And the first directive is simple. Attendance and check-ins are required. Now, if you happen to be among the poor, unfortunate souls to be doing comprehensive distance learning right now, attendance can take a couple different forms. If a student shows up during your synchronous instruction, for reasons that are going to be explained in the other directives, they qualify for this policy. Suppose a student works. Suppose a student, for whatever reason, cannot attend class during its pre-designated time. A student can still qualify for this policy provided they check in with you. For example, if a student sends you an email, if a student drops in during after-school office hours or something along those lines, provided there's dialogue back and forth, they still qualify for this policy. And that ties into the next directive, Directive 2. All assignments are modeled in class, and the students contribute to that modeling, and you model about half of the assignment. That half point is crucial for reasons that are explained in Directive 3. That's the deal here. It's not enough, folks, to just have students show up. As long as a student contributes and you can gauge how that operates as an educator, they are helping teach the class. And as a consequence of that, they are entitled to some, not all, of the points automatically. And how you can gauge that, folks, can differ in a wide variety of ways. If you see a student writing down the materials you're putting up on the board, you can interpret that as contributing. If a student gives out answers, clearly contributing there. If a student checks in with you after school hours and you walk through the first half of it, that's contributing. So that's the second directive there. The third directive goes like this. Regularly attending students are entitled to at least 50%, or rather 59% of the total points on the assignment. Now, with that in mind, ladies and gentlemen and fellow educators, this is extremely important. Assuming a student is regularly attending in keeping with Directive 1, is contributing to the modeling of instruction as indicated in Directive 2, even when it comes to take-home tests. Now, folks, when we did comprehensive distance learning last year in my school, take-home tests were started together in class, and then it was up to the student to finish them. That ties directly into Directive 3, because if a student misses a deadline for whatever reason, assuming they're attending regularly or checking in with you regularly, they are entitled to 59% of the points. Not a 0, but not a D either, not passing, but close, very close, up to a percentage point close to passing, because a student is there. The purpose of this, folks, sends a whole lot of messages to other, more accurately, it serves several different purposes. The first purpose is it keeps your books balanced as a grader. If you're like me, it's one of those things you always have to keep on top of your grading, because my caseload, for example, every year is about 180 students. So you just plug in, if a student hasn't contributed stuff, 59% of whatever the assignment's points are, total points, and done. Then you move on. That way, if a parent or student comes and talks to you about their grade, you can very quickly look in, and if you see a pattern of 59%, you could say student is regularly attending, but the student hasn't handed in any completed work. And you can go from there. Keep in mind, folks, that this policy only works for students who are regularly attending and checking in with you. I have a policy in place for students who are not attending, and that's Directive 5. So, no matter what, an assignment or a take-home test, and I'm even tinkering with actual tests when we go back to in-person instruction with this method, maybe there's a follow-up video in the works for this, they are all automatically entitled to 59% of the points. So, this ties into Directive 4. If a student, for whatever reasons legitimate and otherwise, you don't know, and a student might not tell you for various reasons, Directive 4 says, if a student misses a deadline, they can make up however many points they've earned when they hand in the completed assignment. Whatever it is, folks, whatever it is, they get whatever points they've earned after they hand in the assignment. They still have the quote-unquote penalty of 59% of the points. And anything beyond that is stuff that they've generated on their own. And it could be 100%, could be 85%, could be 70%. It's whatever the student has earned off of the foundation you modeled and they contributed in class. Now, once again, all of this works for students who are regularly attending and contributing. What do you do for students who are not attending and not contributing? Very good question, and that ties into Directive 5. Non-attending students qualify for something called a pass plan. Now, if you have a student who is not attending for whatever reason, you have no choice but to plug in zeros, unless, of course, you want to, giving the benefit of the doubt, plug in 59%. But if a student has, over the course of a school year or a semester or a grading period, only 59% in a grade book, that signals several different problems, potentially. So with that in mind, folks, what you need to do at that point is institute the pass plan. If a student has fallen behind in a semester to the point where they haven't turned in a single assignment, to help that student keep on track for graduation, what you can do, and this has worked very well for me during the pandemic, is create a pass plan. One activity that is calibrated to the key standards of your course. And if you're interested, folks, I can show you in a future video as to how to create pass plans for AP US History, Modern World History, AP World, and Psychology if you're interested, because I've developed these over the years. That's the pass plan. If the student completes that single assignment, these are the consequences. They get either a D for diploma or a pass, depending on what your district will let you do. For example, in my district, up until the pandemic, we were not allowed to give passes for core classes. Now, because of the pandemic, they've gotten lax on that, to the benefit of the student, I might add. The reason why you pick a D or a pass is because it keeps the student on track for graduation, assuming the student has completed the pass plan to the standard. But it doesn't give them any extra boost to their GPA, and that's where the accountability and the responsibility stuff comes in. And the ability to issue a pass plan falls 100% at your discretion as an educator, folks. So, with that in mind, what do you folks think? What are your thoughts on this universal academic income or this equitable grading policy, depending on which term sounds better for you? Please let me know in the comments. I'm really excited to see what you think. And as always, if you or any member of your team should be caught or killed, the secretary will probably have to hire you a sub. Wait a minute. What? 5 seconds. Beam me up. Hello again. Mahalo nui loa for watching that video. Don't forget to tune in every Teacher Tuesday for a new Enterprising Educators video. And if you have an idea for a new video, please let me know in the comments below. So, with that said, live long and prosper, e malama pono, and see you next time.